Hey guys, Max here from Power Supply. We're opening up the new PWR Cruiser bike and we're going to go through a small instructional video on how to put it together. Here we go. So the first thing we're going to want to do is open up this first box. So this is going to have your tools in it and some of your hardware, screws, and your instructions, as well as your charger. So we'll pull that aside and we'll dive into the box. Okay, so here we are with the bike. We've just opened up the side of the box to kind of show the construction on how this is going to come and what's going to be assembled and what you're going to have to assemble. On the front fork here, that's going to come attached. We have your front wheel and your front fender over here that we'll remove, that's zip tied to the frame. And everything on your rear is all prepared. So the only other thing we'll be doing is attaching to the pedals. And let's get this thing opened up. So inside of our box will be a printed instruction manual, so you can find more details here. We'll have our small toolkit, which will have all the tools needed to put the whole bike together. And your charger, which will be your wall plug charger for the bike, for the batteries, and your pedal kit. If you have a pair of scissors, that'll be helpful. We got a few zip ties to get through here, and we'll get all these parts undone. The first thing to get done is to take off the front wheel and fender combination, and this is going to be attached at the fork and at the frame. And there's a third one down below. So after undoing those three, your wheel and your fender should become free, and we'll put those aside. We're now getting the handlebars unwrapped. Be careful when cutting because you have cables that run through all of your gears here, so we want to make sure that we're not cutting into any of those cables unwrapping this foam. With your Allen keys, there's going to be three different sizes here. To start with the handlebars, you're going to want to get the middle size Allen, and we're going to want to head and release these out of the stem here. We're going to attach the handlebars by just removing these two screws. And make sure we don't lose those. So one thing you want to be careful about is the handlebars have an orientation. If the cables are coming from this side, you want to make sure your handlebars are fed from that side. So by doing this, we have a little bit more freedom in play with the length of your cables. If we would have been reversed, you would have ended up having an issue with steering. So now we're just tightening these Allen keys. We want to get them about 75 to 85% tightened before we really try to set the angle, otherwise you're going to be fighting yourself. So now that we've got them set pretty close, we'll get our angle to about what feels right, knowing that once we have it fully assembled and give it a little bit of a ride, we'll probably tweak our angles a little bit to our desired liking. So with using our screwdriver, the built-in phone holder that has the phone charging capabilities will come at different angles, and so depending on where you end up setting your handlebars, you'll want to set that to that. So loosening this screw just a little bit in the back, we can adjust, bring this angle up a little bit, and then we can also tweak that later on as we get the bike fully assembled. Next, we're going to want to take off these rear zip ties, get all the rest of the packaging off, and then we'll move forward to the front fender. Be careful not to try to cut the tire or scratch your wheels in doing so. Next, we're going to want to take off, there's one more zip tie that attaches where your pedals are going to go into your crankshaft. We'll just remove that zip tie really quick. On this bike, it's on the other side. And now everything is taken off packaging wise. The last thing to unclip is going to be the keys, which will be zip tied to your battery. Let's keep it there for now so we don't lose it or misplace it until we get the whole bike put together. Zip tied to your front wheel is going to be this important little guy, and this is what's actually going to go through the hub of your front wheel and replace the bolt that comes on the front fork. So make sure not to lose this, and we'll use this right away. And then attached to your wheel is going to be a fender. Now, we come stock with fenders. It's an optional fender. You can take both of the fenders off if you'd like, or you can keep them on. It's up to your personal preference with looks and what kind of terrain you're riding. Okay, so now we're going to take your front wheel assembly. We're going to bring it down. We'll pop off this little cap that's protecting the inside of your hub, and we'll come on down here. The first thing we want to do is on the front fork here, you're going to see that there is a bolt running through this front fork. we're going to remove that. That's just in there for shipping, so we don't have any damages or anything doesn't bend in shipping. So let's go ahead and get this off and go from there. So this is the bolt that we take out. You will not be needing this. You will not be using this. So if you end up with the part that you don't know where it goes, it is not important. You don't need to keep this. So what's next is you're going to notice that there's a disc brake on your front wheel. Make sure that when you go to assemble this, you keep your disc brake on the side that has the disc brake. And that'll orient the fender as well. So the silver part of the fender will be in the back. The front mount will be here, and we'll be sliding into the front fork this way. If you try to go this way, I promise you it won't work. So next thing you're going to want to do is there's a plastic cap on the inside of this wheel too. We'll want to go ahead and pop that off. You won't need it, so we'll just get that off of there. And we'll go ahead and lift up the front of this and drop it onto the smallest parts of the front hub here. So now we've dropped the front fork onto our hub and we're ready to insert this guy. The key in doing so is you're going to back off the threaded side, and there's a small spring that's going to stay on both sides of these components. So we'll keep the shaft with the spring and insert from one side, and it'll go through the center of that front hub. And on the other side of it, then we'll add the spring with our cap to the threaded edge and tighten. And we want to get it pretty close to tight, about as finger tight as we can. And what's imperative is to keep this part, instead of closed, we want to keep this out while we get it finger tight. And what this is going to do is going to be that last tightening. So we get as tight as we can with our hands, and then we'll bring this lever up and push it down that way. When you go to tighten it, once it's about as finger tight as you can get, if you hold the back side, you can grab this lever and rotate about 1 or 2 rotations, and that'll really get it about as tight as possible. We want to do so that the wheel, when we tighten this, it's nice and tight. And if you can get it good, you want to get it straight up and down. So let's try that to get a little bit closer. Okay. There we go. So that's nice and tight on our front wheel. And now we're going to want to go ahead and attach the front fender.